My sister forged emails to get me kicked out. Years later, they came begging for help, but I refused to forgive 12 years ago. My world collapsed. All because my own sister, Sophie, decided to destroy my life. At 20, I was about to start college, finally seeing a future for myself, when my family suddenly turned on me. Overnight, I went from being their child to being thrown out with nowhere to go. And all of it happened because Sophie, the golden, perfect daughter, couldn't stand the idea of me achieving something without their help. Sophie is 5 years older, and ever since we were kids, she was treated like royalty. My parents adored her. If she got an A, there would be cake and celebration. When I did the same, they'd shrug and ask what was for dinner. No matter how much effort I put in, I was always in her shadow. When she got into a top university, they acted like she was some kind of prodigy. They paid for her tuition, her luxury apartment, her fancy clothes, everything. When my turn came, I was accepted into a prestigious college in France to study history. I was proud and excited, but also terrified. I asked my parents if they could help a little with tuition. They flat out said no. They told me they couldn't afford it, that Sophie's education had already cost a lot, and now they had to focus on starting their new business. I didn't argue much at first. I knew college was expensive. But when they refused to even co-sign a student loan, that's when it broke me. They weren't being responsible, they just didn't want to bother. I realized they'd always find excuses when it came to me. So with no other choice, I reached out to my aunt, my dad's older sister, Caroline. She's a neurosurgeon, successful but unbelievably kind and down to earth. My parents always acted polite around her, but there was this quiet resentment, especially from my father. He hated that she was more accomplished than him. Still, I called her. I didn't want to, but desperation leaves you with little pride. I explained my situation, expecting at least hesitation, but she didn't even blink. "Of course, I'll help you," she said. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" She offered to cover my tuition immediately. I was beyond grateful. The only condition I asked was that she keep it between us, because if my father found out I'd gone behind his back, he'd lose his mind. For a while, everything was fine. I was relieved, thinking I'd finally caught a break. But then Sophie found out. To this day, I have no clue how she did. Maybe she snooped on my laptop, maybe my parents overheard something, but somehow she discovered that Aunt Caroline had helped me. And Sophie, being Sophie, couldn't just mind her own business. She had to turn it into a family scandal. One night, I came home to find all my belongings boxed up, clothes, books, everything, even my mattress. My parents were sitting in the living room, faces grim. Sophie was standing there with that same smug, self-satisfied grin I'd seen 1,000 times before. My father didn't waste a second. He threw a pile of printed papers at me and barked, "Care to explain this?" I picked them up, confused, until I saw what they were. Fake emails, dozens of them. Sophie had created forged email threads between Aunt Caroline and me, making it look like I was betraying my parents, selling them business information in exchange for tuition money. She'd used real snippets from my genuine messages and photoshopped the rest. I was speechless. I tried to explain, but my parents wouldn't listen. They said I'd broken their trust and that they didn't want a traitor in the house. Sophie stood there pretending to look sad about it, but I could see the satisfaction in her eyes. Within an hour, I was told to pack my things and leave. I begged them to hear me out, but they were done. They called me a liar, a manipulator, and kicked me out of my own home. So I left. I showed up at Aunt Caroline's door with a few boxes and a broken heart. She opened the door, took one look at me, and pulled me into a hug. She didn't ask questions, just told me her house was mine for as long as I needed. That night, I cried harder than I ever had in my life. Caroline became the family I never had. She was warm, patient, and never made me feel like a burden. Her house, strange at first, slowly started feeling like a real home. We talked for hours, and she told me things I'd never known, especially about my father. Apparently, the bitterness between him and Caroline had existed since childhood. He'd always been jealous of her success, her career, her life, even her personality. When she became a doctor, he became consumed with the need to outdo her, and that competitiveness never left. She told me she suspected his resentment had bled into how he treated me because, in a way, I reminded him of her. Independent, ambitious, capable of achieving things without his help. It all made sense now. Meanwhile, Sophie thrived on being the favorite. She was everything my parents wanted, obedient, social, and always eager to show off. They poured all their time and money into her. I tried not to think about them, but every night the memory of that night, the boxes, my father's glare, Sophie's smirk, replayed in my mind. Weeks went by. Not a single call, not even a text. It was like I'd died to them. Then one afternoon, Sophie texted me. Her message was short and cruel. "Hope you're doing well. Maybe keep your laptop safer next time." I stared at my phone, shaking with rage. No apology, no guilt, just mockery. I blocked her number immediately. Life with Aunt Caroline brought peace I never knew I needed. She helped me prepare for my move to France, bought me supplies, and kept encouraging me when I doubted myself. She told me she was proud of me, and it hit harder than anything I'd ever heard from my parents. When I finally left for college, she drove me to the airport and hugged me tight. "You're going to do great things," she said. For the first time, I believed her. I decided that day I was done chasing my parents' approval. If they ever wanted to reach out, fine, but I wouldn't go crawling back. College in France was incredible. I studied hard, made friends, and started living a life that was truly mine. My parents faded into the background of my thoughts. 4 years later, I graduated, found a high-paying job, and finally felt secure. Then one night my phone rang, and when I looked at the screen, I froze. It was my mother. I hadn't heard from her in years. My heart pounded as I stared at her name flashing across the screen. For a few seconds, I debated whether to answer or not. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I said, keeping my voice neutral. There was a pause, and then, "Hi, it's your mother." No kidding. But I stayed quiet, waiting for her to explain. She hesitated again before finally blurting out, "We need to talk." Typical, no apology, no warmth, straight to business. I could already tell what was coming. They didn't want to reconnect. They needed something. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked flatly. "Well," she said slowly, "your father and we've been having a hard time. Things haven't been easy since the pandemic, and there it was. The real reason, money, their business had collapsed. Aunt Caroline had mentioned once that things weren't going well for them, but I didn't pry. Now they were calling me the same traitor they threw out because they needed help. I stayed silent, letting her stumble through her excuses. Then she said, "Your sister's been managing things for us, but I cut her off. "Let me guess," I said. "Sophie messed everything up." The long silence on the other end told me I was right. Of course, Sophie had messed everything up. I don't even know why they were shocked. It was classic her. She'd always cared more about keeping up appearances than actually putting in the effort. They had trusted her completely, and now that blind faith was coming back to bite them. My mom exhaled shakily. "Things haven't exactly been going as planned," she admitted. "And we really need help." I couldn't stop myself from laughing. The irony was too much. After everything, throwing me out, cutting me off, siding with Sophie, they were suddenly turning to me. The nerve was unbelievable. "Unreal," I muttered under my breath. "What's so funny?" my mom asked, sounding genuinely puzzled, as if she couldn't understand why I wasn't rushing to rescue them. "You're kidding, right?" I said, my voice rising. "You actually think I'd help you now?" I could feel the anger boiling up. All the resentment I'd buried for 3 years came flooding back. "We're still your parents," she said, her voice trembling. "We made mistakes, but we need you." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. "You didn't just make mistakes, Mom. You threw me out. You believed Sophie's lies over your own son. You ignored me for years. And now you expect me to just drop everything and come running?" Silence. She wasn't used to me standing my ground. Back then, I would have said yes to anything just to keep the peace. But that person was gone. I'd grown, and I wasn't about to let them walk all over me again. When she finally spoke, her tone had changed. She wasn't pretending to be kind anymore, just annoyed that I was standing firm. "We're still family," she said coldly. "You owe us that much." That was it, the breaking point. "I don't owe you a damn thing," I said flatly. "If you need help, ask Sophie. She's the golden child, remember." Before she could respond, I hung up. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking, but for the first time I felt light. Like I'd finally said what I'd been holding in all those years. They could deal with their own mess. I was done being their backup plan. That night I called Aunt Caroline and told her everything. She wasn't even surprised. "They've depended on Sophie for too long," she said calmly. "It was only a matter of time before it caught up to them." By the end of the call, I knew I'd done the right thing. My parents chose Sophie over me, and now they were paying for it. Harsh as it sounded, it wasn't my job to fix what they broke. For the first time in years, I felt free. I didn't need their approval. I had my own life, and I wasn't going to let their toxicity pull me back in. I'd already endured enough of their betrayal. It was time they faced the fallout. After that phone call with my mom, I decided I was completely done with the family drama. Honestly, I was proud of how I handled it. I'd stood up for myself and made it crystal clear. I wasn't their safety net. I figured they'd back off and go back to relying on Sophie, but I underestimated her ability to stir chaos. 3 weeks later, she showed up at my door. It was a normal Saturday. I was cleaning the apartment when I heard a knock. I rarely get visitors, so I was already confused. I peered through the peephole and froze. Sophie. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. What the hell was she doing here? She hadn't talked to me in years, except for that smug text about my laptop, and now she was on my doorstep like nothing happened. My first instinct was to ignore her, but knowing Sophie, she wouldn't leave without getting what she came for, so I opened the door. She flashed that fake, cheerful smile of hers. "Hey," she chirped like we were old friends. "It's been a while." Yeah," I said slowly. "What are you doing here, Sophie?" She gave me that overly sweet look she always used when she wanted something. "I just wanted to talk," she said, lowering her head a little. "Can I come in?" I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "Talk about what?" Her smile faltered, but she quickly put it back on. "Come on, let's just talk inside. It's important." I should have told her to leave, but curiosity got the better of me, so I stepped aside. She walked in like she owned the place, looking around. "Nice apartment," she said casually. I ignored her. "What do you want, Sophie?" she sighed, already sounding tired of pretending. "Mom told me about your call," she said, crossing her arms. "She's really upset, you know." I raised an eyebrow. "Upset? She kicked me out of the house, Sophie. What exactly does she have to be upset about?" She rolled her eyes. "Look, I'm not here to dig up old stuff. You've always been difficult." I almost laughed. "Difficult? You forged emails and got me thrown out. That's difficult to you?" She waved her hand dismissively. "That's ancient history. I came here because I want to fix things." I blinked. "Fix things? You?" "Yeah," she said earnestly. "I know I went too far back then, but I think it's time we move past it." "You think you went too far?" I asked slowly. "Sophie, you destroyed my life. You turned our parents against me. And now you're acting like none of that matters." Her fake smile wavered. "I didn't come here to fight, okay? I need your help." Ah, there it was, the truth. I folded my arms, waiting. "I've been trying to keep the business running," she admitted, her cheerful tone gone. "But it's bad. The pandemic hit us hard. I'm doing everything I can, but it's not enough. We're going under." I stared at her. "So let me guess, you want me to bail you out?" "I'm not asking for charity," she said quickly. "I just thought maybe we could work something out. You're doing well now. I figured you'd want to help your family." I couldn't believe her. She was guilt-tripping me to fix the mess she created. "You figured wrong," I said coldly. Her expression faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm not helping you," I said flatly. "Not after what you did. You ruined my life, Sophie. You turned our parents against me, and now you think I'll just forget it all? No." She stared at me, lost for words. "But we're family," she said weakly. I shook my head. "We stopped being family the day you decided to destroy me." Her face went pale. She wasn't used to being told no. After a long, awkward silence, she stood up. "Fine," she snapped. "If that's how you want it." "That's exactly how I want it," I said calmly. "You made your choices, now you live with them." Without another word, she stormed out and slammed the door. For a moment, I just stood there, letting the silence sink in. Part of me felt bad, but then I remembered everything she'd done, and the guilt vanished. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally in control. No longer in her shadow, no longer the family's scapegoat. I was free. I thought that after Sophie stormed out, things would finally settle down, that she'd get the message. But of course, I underestimated her stubborn streak. Less than a week later, another knock came. This time, it wasn't Sophie. It was both of my parents. It was another Saturday, my supposed day off. I was lounging on the couch when I heard the firm, insistent knock. The kind that says, "We're not leaving until you open up." I sighed, already suspecting who it was. Sure enough, when I opened the door, there they were. My mom and dad standing together like they'd rehearsed it. My dad looked uneasy, but my mom had that determined look, the kind that said she was ready to bulldoze through anything. "What do you want?" I asked, leaning on the doorframe. She gave me a forced smile. "Can we come in? We just want to talk." I should have slammed the door right then, but I knew if I didn't let them in, they'd just keep coming back, so I stepped aside. They walked in, scanning the place like they were expecting something grander. My dad stayed silent while Mom sat on the couch, patting the seat next to her. "I'll stand," I said flatly. "All right," she said with another fake smile. "Look, we know things have been difficult between us." "Difficult?" I repeated, raising a brow. "That's one way to put it." My dad finally spoke up, voice low and rough. "We didn't come to fight." "Then why did you come?" I shot back. "Sophie tried, you tried. I made myself clear. I'm not helping." Mom's smile wavered. She wasn't used to hearing me stand firm. That's not why we're here, she said softly. We came to apologize, I almost laughed. Apologize for what? Throwing me out, believing Sophie's lies. Or ignoring me for 3 years? Her face tightened and my dad shifted uncomfortably. Clearly, they weren't prepared for me to bite back. We know we made mistakes, Mom said quietly. But we're family. Family sticks together. I sighed. You're only here because you need something, I said flatly. If things were fine, you wouldn't even be talking to me. There was silence. Then my dad spoke again, surprising me. You're right, I blinked. What? You're right, he repeated, taking a deep breath. We screwed up, we believed Sophie, we kicked you out, and we didn't think twice about it. Now everything's falling apart and we're desperate. For once, he was being honest. My mom looked furious that he'd said it out loud. I appreciate the honesty, I said finally, but it doesn't change a thing. Mom's tone sharpened. It doesn't change the fact that we need you. You owe us after everything we did for you. There it was again, that entitlement, like I was still the obedient kid they could guilt into submission. I don't owe you anything, I said firmly. You made your choice when you believed Sophie. You threw me out without even checking if I was okay. And now you want me to save you? No. My dad stared at the floor, silent. My mom's voice rose. We're your parents, we raised you. You can't just abandon us. I shook my head slowly. You didn't raise me, Caroline did. You chose Sophie and now you're stuck with her. That's not my problem. She looked ready to explode, but my dad put a hand on her arm, stopping her. He stood and met my eyes for the first time in years. We understand, he said quietly. We won't push anymore, we just had to try. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. But then I remembered the night they threw me out and that pity disappeared. I hope you figure it out, I said, opening the door. But I'm not part of it. My dad nodded. My mom gave me one last glare, a mix of anger and desperation before she followed him out. When the door closed, I just stood there, letting the silence wash over me. I'd finally done it. I'd stood my ground. And for the first time in my life, I was truly free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.